What is a fable? Merriam-Webster describes a fable as a fictitious narrative or statement, such as a legendary story of supernatural happenings, a narration intended to enforce a useful truth and/or a falsehood, lie. Megalopolis is all that. It's grand epic celluloid about big ideas and unresolved tensions from the beginning of societies, utopias versus dystopias, the role of the polis, the nature of urban planning, and so forth. Megalopolis is also batshit crazy, a head-scratcher, a noble failure, and a must-see. Presumably Francis Ford Coppola's last film, and maybe the one which bankrupts him for good. It's a garish, vulgar, incoherent, even smug, muddled failure that is still worth one viewing if you're at all serious about the movies in 2024. If you're only interested in the Marvel Universe, TikTok, and have never read anything other than Taylor Swift lyrics, this isn't the film for you. Imagine an aging, out-of-touch auteur trying to outdo late-period Fellini, once upon a time, another aging, out-of-touch Italian filmmaker, while retelling Julius Caesar and other Greco-Roman and Shakespearean tragedies, with dollops of Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead and Gabriel Garcia Marquez, plus AI thrown in for good measure. And all the tropes are there as well. The mayor or ruler out of touch with his constituents, attached to a decaying political system. His nemesis, a young urban planner with a radical vision for the future. The mayor's beautiful daughter, who, despite being loyal to her father, falls for his enemy. A secondary plot to bring down the visionary. A corrupt rich family with an aging patriarch, a foolish and even dangerous son on the verge of being disinherited, and the patriarch's young shrewish wife, who could be the death of them all. And none of it is very good and hardly memorable. The great auteur's 23rd feature may be his worst film by a metropolis mile. It's almost dead on arrival. His grand labor of love has brewed for too long and is as stale as leftover espresso. Whatever profundity he once believed it had, aged so badly that none of its qualities are apparent on screen. The special effects look cheap. The acting is beyond uneven, especially during the first act, which is certainly Coppola's fault. The parallels with ancient Rome and their downfall are childlike obvious, eliciting no new illuminations nor epiphanies. The dialogue is wretched. The female characters are shamefully cliched. Yes, we all know that Godfather 2 is the best American sequel of all time, and you can make every argument that it or The Godfather might be the best American movie of all time. Apocalypse Now has survived its early mixed reception and is now seen as another Francis Ford Coppola masterpiece. The Conversation is regarded as his fourth greatest work, or maybe Rumblefish from 1983, which some view as his last great film. But sickos like me swear that 1981's One from the Heart, which nearly bankrupted him, is an unsung masterwork. I admire The Connection and Rumblefish, not to mention The Outsiders, but I adore One from the Heart. It too shares the same subtitle, a fable, as Megalopolis, and it's a film I try to watch at least once a year, from start to finish, the same as The Godfathers and Apocalypse Now. But if I live to be an older man, will I have any affection for Megalopolis? Aside from tips of the hat to Jon Voight, who, despite being one of Hollywood's foremost Republicans, is surely doing his best wheezing Donald Trump impression, and Nathalie Emmanuel, who has the dual burden of being both a young Michelle Pfeiffer and Halle Berry. If early in her career, Hollywood didn't know how to cast Pfeiffer, who was so transcendently beautiful, America's answer to Catherine Deneuve, beyond the obvious, what the hell could it responsibly offer a woman of color like Berry? Eye candy and other one-dimensional, meaningless roles, but few moments that understood she could actually act as well as look impossibly beautiful. Emmanuel at least had the hit television series, Game of Thrones, which allowed her to shine. Megalopolis isn't much, but Coppola was right to cast her. She's a budding international star, if the roles rises to her acting abilities. Megalopolis may be Coppola's last film, and he has earned the right to make whatever he wishes. Besides, he financed it himself. You just wished he would have had a more fitting swan song. Somehow, one of our greatest and most maddening filmmakers reversed the myth of Icarus in Daedalus. Once he was Icarus, the son who escaped along with his father the prison labyrinth of Crete with homemade wings, but an Icarus who survived his initial flight close to the sun. But what if there was another story, and it was the old man who ignored his own warnings and fell crashing to the earth. Wouldn't that be our Coppola? Thank you for listening to the Turntable Tuesdays podcast on YouTube. You could have been listening to any other podcast on YouTube, but you listened to ours. On Turntable Tuesdays, we drop the needle on all things pop culture, from A to Z. From Abajay Pop, La Liga to Donald Trump to Zoe Kravitz. We cover sports, music, politics, tech, etc. We're not hot take specialists, but we often have politically incorrect opinions. If you're easily offended, don't subscribe to our podcasts. But if you can handle polite differences of opinions, like adults are supposed to do, we're the podcast for you. And hey, we want to do it in less than 10 minutes. So listen with open ears and subscribe. Until next time, we hope the music of your life stays melodious.